with us on this Friday edition of Ed Schultz News and Commentary. Lots in the news this day. We're going to be hearing from Ohio State Senator Nina Turner, also Lanny Davis of the Hillary Clinton campaign, and Senator Sherrod Brown is going to be along later this morning to visit with us. All right, big story. At least the politicos think it's a big story. The Sanders campaign, I guess you could say, is being sanctioned by the DNC because there has been a breach of access of voter information. A Sanders administrative assistant has been fired from the campaign after viewing and having access to some voter information from the Hillary Clinton campaign. I don't know what it means. I don't think it's going to bring down Bernie Sanders at all. The Sanders campaign apparently had warned the DNC several months ago that the company that has been providing the data service to the DNC was not secure enough. And so now a staffer has been found looking at some voter files and voter information on the Hillary Clinton campaign. That staffer has been fired. They have put out a statement in the Sanders campaign saying that it certainly won't be tolerated, and they've taken care of it. But they also pointed out that they warned the DNC of this problem months ago. It doesn't speak at all to either candidate's character. There's a lot of things that go on into a campaign. I guess so you could say that this is Bernie Sanders' email scandal, if you want to equate it to that and be a real politico on it. For more on all of this, and also the good news out of the Sanders campaign is that they picked up two big announcements yesterday, two big endorsements, Communication Workers of America and also the Democracy for America. That was a group that was headed up some time ago and has been very active in recent years. A grassroots effort on the Democratic side that all started with Governor Howard Dean. This is Bernie Sanders reacting to the CWA endorsement, which comes from the employees who are members of CWA.
I think what we are seeing is a lot of grassroots support in union after union throughout this country. But that support has not necessarily trickled up to the leadership. What I would have hoped is that unions who believe in democracy would have done what the CWA is, really create a wide open process. Now, maybe we'd win, maybe we wouldn't win, I don't know. But I think we would have won a lot more national union support.
And the senator goes on and talks about how he's going to defeat Wall Street and what he's up against.
Over 2 million contributions have been made to the only campaign that rejects a corrupt campaign finance system. You can't level the playing field with Wall Street banks and billionaires by taking their money. I'm Bernie Sanders, and I approve this message.
Well, there's good news and bad news. For more of it all, let's go to former Ohio State Senator Nina Turner. Nina, good to have you with us.
Good morning, Big Eddie. Glad to be with you.
How is the campaign accepting this news in the wake of a staffer being fired and this voter data information being viewed by the Sanders campaign from the Clinton campaign? What about all that?
I mean, certainly it's nothing that any campaign wants to have to say, but the campaign handled it properly. They fired the staffer. They acted swiftly. They condemned it. They said it will not be tolerated, and the actions show that they will not tolerate that kind of behavior. But as you pointed out, they did warn the DNC that there were some problems with this company. It's just very unfortunate that it has to spill out this way. And it also feeds into a conspiracy that is floating in the Democratic circles, as you know, that the game is rigged against Senator Sanders. And so, you know, the DNC is going to have to answer to that as well. But I'm hopefully all this is cleared up and that the senator's campaign can get that voter file back, because that voter file is necessary to be able to target voters and win this race.
Well, that voter file, can Bernie Sanders win Iowa without access to the voter file? And for our viewers and listeners, the DNC has pretty much sanctioned the Sanders campaign. They will not have access to this voter file. How critical is that?
It's very critical, Ed, but also in the reading of the article, it's my understanding that once they have a meeting with the DNC to clear up any misunderstandings and anything that might be outstanding, to be able to prove that none of those files were copied, I think they can get that file back. They have to have it. Now, on the good news side of this, Sanders' campaign has been in Iowa for a while, as you know, and so they've been campaigning and door knocking and penetrating. So I'm hoping that this can be cleared up rather quickly, but I think the work heretofore that the campaign has done will ultimately give them what they need.
How important is the CWA endorsement, considering it's coming from the members and not the leadership, and the track record that they have of doing boots on the ground and the necessary work door to door?
Oh, tremendous, Ed. It is very symbolic, and I agree with the senator. He hit the nail on the head. 6 weeks worth of voting. The faithful got to vote. It wasn't some top-down edict that you must support this candidate or another candidate. Senator Sanders and the other Democrats were able to compete head to head, and Senator Sanders won. 6 weeks worth of voting from the rank and file members, and they voted for Senator Bernie Sanders. I think it's tremendous. The symbol that the CWA is also sending in terms of their fundamental belief in democracy, even when it comes to their members being able to select the type of select the candidate that they want for the presidency. It's absolutely tremendous, and this is a big deal, and I'm so happy for the campaign.
Nina Turner with us, former state senator from Ohio, and now with the Sanders campaign. You've been doing a lot of work in South Carolina. Tell us about it.
Well, at the beginning, I've been to Iowa twice. I'm on my way to New Hampshire. I haven't quite penetrated South Carolina, but I'm on my way there next. But we are traveling to all the states, traveling but to these early states right now just to get the senator's message out. And I will tell you, when I was on the ground in Iowa, Senator Sanders did a criminal justice forum, which I was one of the panelists along with him and 2 ex-offenders. The majority of that audience were white Americans. But the senator talked about the travesty in this country that you have a justice system that does not treat black and brown folks equally, and that we collectively, whether we're black, white, Hispanic, Asian, Native American, all of us in the mosaic of humanity have to do something about it. And to hear those ex-offenders tell their story to a majority white audience, to me that really speaks to the character of Senator Sanders. He doesn't have a different message to white audiences that you have to audiences of color. He tells the truth. He talks about listening to people. It's just been powerful. And just the excitement there for him, especially among young folks. And I got a chance to meet some young sisters who they're not even old enough to vote, Ed, but they all about feeling the burn. Whatever Senator Sanders has in terms of how he motivates the young people in this country, we need to bottle it up because we need people to be excited and for them to get out there to vote for this democracy to work. But I am very excited about the work that we're doing. I'm on my way to New Hampshire now. I'll be there for the debate with him, and I'll be in the spin room after that, and then I'll be heading to South Carolina.
Nina, what do you sense from the Sanders campaign, the rank-and-file workers? Clearly, they have to be frustrated that the Sanders campaign isn't getting anywhere near the attention nationally as Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump or anybody else on the Republican side who's running. The corporate media has really shied away from Bernie Sanders. There are surveys out there to show that he's gotten very little time on the air. Is this how much does this stick in the craw of the workers, the folks that are out there, knowing that they're for Bernie Sanders, thinking that they're not getting a fair shake?
It's very frustrating, and nobody wants to think that the game is rigged, but the corporate media has locked Senator Sanders out. They barely say his name.
Is that the phrase they're using, that he's been locked out?
Yeah, that's the phrase, and everybody knows it. But I tell you, they are resilient, and they are not letting this hold them back. They know that we have to use alternative forms of media, use social media in a deeper way. Programs like yours, thank you for talking about Senator Sanders and his message. But we gotta play the game. You know, urban poet Tupac once said, "Don't hate the player, hate the game." We don't like what's going on right now, but we're not going to let it stop us. And so the campaign staff, they're resilient. They understand the rules of engagement, although it's unfair, but we're continuing to fight the power.
From Ohio and with the Sanders campaign, Nina Turner with us here on Ed Schultz News and Commentary. All the best. Thanks, Nina. We'll do it again.
Thank you. Thank you.
You bet. Of course, everybody is gearing up for the big Democratic debate on Saturday night. It's the worst night for television viewing, and the DNC has placed the next Democratic debate on a Saturday night on ABC. As I pointed out earlier this week, the network that has covered Bernie Sanders the least. When we come back, Lanny Davis, connected at the hip with the Clintons for many, many years and a hard worker for Hillary Clinton in the campaign. We'll talk about that with Lanny Davis and the debate coming up and Senator Sherrod Brown here on Ed Schultz News and Commentary. Stay with us. Hey, folks, you've heard me talk about BioGreen Clean. I'm going to show you right now on my airplane just how tough this is. I want you to keep in mind, chemical-free, 100% plant-derived, biodegradable, It is the safest cleaner that you can get, and it's the most effective. Go to our website, wegotahead.com, or go to biogreenclean.com. www.biogreenclean and order today. It's time to continue our conversation about mechanical insulation. Mechanical insulation is for the piping systems in our nation's commercial and industrial facilities. Facility owners are burning up billions of dollars through the lack of mechanical insulation on these piping systems. Call the iSave team. Insulation saves America valuable energy, and this team of energy conservation specialists is shovel-ready to save you money. Visit iSaveTeam.org to have a specialist give your plant an energy audit. Communication Workers of America, Alliance for American Manufacturing, BioGreen Clean, and the iSave team bring you Ed Schultz news and commentary. You'll notice the Republican and the Democratic campaigns seem to be paralleling one another when it comes to poll numbers. You've got Trump and Hillary Clinton on opposite sides, obviously, polling very well nationally, a very comfortable lead. In fact, Hillary Clinton has a 20-point lead on Bernie Sanders nationally, but in the states, just as it is for Donald Trump, it seems to be a horse race. Hillary, a pretty good lead in Iowa, but Sanders, a 5-point lead in New Hampshire. And, of course, Ted Cruz has got some momentum on the Republican side in Iowa. And he's making some headlines, which we'll talk about, because he is slamming this spending bill, says it's the Washington cartel back at it again. We'll get to that. But looking at the Clinton campaign right now, Lanny Davis joins us, vice president of Levick. From 96 to 98, he served as special counsel to President Bill Clinton. He's been a friend of the Clintons for many years. A good guy, too. Lanny, how are you?
Hello, Ed. Great to be on with you, and hope you're doing well. Happy holidays.
How does the Clinton campaign, you think, view this breach of voter data with the DNC and how a Sanders staffer has been fired? Is this going to be very damaging to Sanders, and how much of a gain for Clinton? What do you think?
Oh, absolutely not. It's an innocent mistake, or a mistake that some staffer did stupidly. It has nothing to do with Senator Sanders and his integrity. He acted quickly, and it's a non-issue. Hillary Clinton greatly respects Senator Sanders, and it's mutual. They debate the issues, but we're not Republicans. We don't impugn people's integrity because somebody does something that's a mistake.
The downside of this for the Sanders campaign is that they may not have access to voter information when it comes time to do the Iowa caucus and New Hampshire primary. How do you view that? Is that going to be fixed before, or is this going to be a big setback for Sanders?
You know, I'm one man's opinion, but I would certainly tell my friend Debbie Wasserman Schultz, don't penalize Senator Sanders because one staffer makes a mistake. He should have the same access as Hillary Clinton, and I would definitely favor just moving on and not penalizing him.
I was watching the debate, obviously, with 18 million other people the other night. I don't know how many times Hillary Clinton's name was tossed out. It felt like about 100. But Donald Trump now seems to be zeroing in on Hillary Clinton, trying to make the case that, of all things, she doesn't have the stamina to be president. I want you to react to this. Here it is.
You have said that Hillary Clinton does not have enough energy to be president, but you and she are about the same age.
Right.
So what?
I have a lot of energy. Look, she doesn't have the strength or the stamina.
Her people would argue, as Secretary of State, and even now she travels all over the world. She speaks everywhere. Is it because she's a woman?
Not really. If you look at Hillary, she'll do an event, and then she goes back home and she goes to sleep. I mean, you don't see her.
You don't know that.
I think so, though. I think so.
Your response, Lanny?
This man is a joke and a travesty, and he'll result in 49 states being lost to any Democratic presidential nominee because he's a joke. And he lies, and then he takes it back. So he just lied about going to sleep, taking naps. He'd never say that about a man. And as soon as Barbara Walters confronted him with the lie, what did he say? Oh, well, I think so. He's an outright liar, and I never use the L word unless it's absolutely impossible to avoid. And it's hard to take him seriously. He does have the demagogic ability to prey on people's fears, and there'll be 40% of the electorate that will vote hatred and bigotry and all the other things that he preys on. There's nothing more to say about this kind of man other than he's a joke.
So, Lanny, do you think that
joke, but a joke?
Yeah. Do you think that Donald Trump has the ability to walk any Democratic candidate right into the White House because he has totally mixed up the GOP race? Yes.
There will be a vast center-right Republican vote for any Democrat running against Donald Trump. When you hear Jeb Bush and a number of other Republican presidential candidates and major Republican leaders not answering the question, will you vote for Trump in the general election? And Glenn Beck, for goodness sakes, this is the type of avalanche landslide that will destroy our current Republican Party as we know it. And I'm not in favor of that. I think John Kasich, Jeb Bush, Republicans who are conservative, who I disagree with, would make formidable candidates against Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders. And I do think that Senator Sanders is running a competitive race, and I think it's disrespectful that he's not mentioned in the Republican debates. And the Hillary Clinton campaign is not assuming anything other than a competitive race with a formidable candidate speaking to the issues and definitely getting enthusiasm from a large number of Democrats named Bernie Sanders. That's a simple fact.
Lanny Davis with us here on Ed Schultz News and Commentary. Lanny, what about Iowa? There's a lot of conversation about the Sanders ground game, that they're going to get the vote out. Are you confident that the same mistakes won't be made by the Clinton campaign that were made in 2008? When I think actually the Clinton campaign was pretty much blindsided as taking third behind Barack Obama and John Edwards in Iowa. Can Hillary Clinton get her people out on caucus night to get off to a good start in this race in less than 40 days? Your thoughts? Are these ground people going to be there for Hillary?
Personal knowledge, some things I'm not too knowledgeable about because I'm just a friend of Hillary Clinton. I'm not in the campaign, so I don't speak for anyone. Yeah. I was out in Iowa about a year ago, and I can tell you that the ground game since a year ago has been put into place systematically in every precinct in every county in using, by the way, Barack Obama's chief organizers from 2008. So the answer is yes, Hillary Clinton learned a great lesson about how do you organize in Iowa? And it's much, much different. Having said that, I am very impressed by Bernie Sanders, period. By the campaign he's run, by his message, by his ability to get the grassroots out, and I think it will be a competitive contest in Iowa.
Always great to visit, Lanny Davis. I appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Take care, Ed.
You bet. When we come back, Senator Sherrod Brown, the spending bill, it's going to hit some high waves in the Senate. And Ted Cruz, of course, is already making hay that he is going to say hell no to the whole thing. What does that mean? Will there be enough votes to get it through? And will the president go along with it? Is there pork in it? Senator Brown joins us next. Stay with us.
From the steel mills of Pennsylvania, to the auto factories of Michigan, to the modern makers movement, manufacturing makes our nation great. I'm Scott Paul, president of the Alliance for American Manufacturing. We bring business and labor together to advocate for policies that everyone can agree on. Together, we can strengthen manufacturing and create good-paying American jobs. Help us keep it made in America.
We perpetuate a culture of crime all the way from Wall Street right down to the main street in our hometowns.
It's worse than it has been since FDR took control of the problem and said we can't count on industry taking care of the American labor.
They probably have already engaged into some type of criminal cover-up, and the law prohibits the government from even doing anything about it.
Catch America's lawyer Mike Papantonio on YouTube at youtube.com/GoLeftTV.
Good to have you back with us on Ed Schultz News and Commentary. Communication Workers of America, Alliance for American Manufacturing, BioGreen Clean, and the iSafe team bring you this production. Well, you would think that the Speaker of the House, Mr. Ryan, has got this spending bill all put together and not going to be a campaign issue, but then here comes Ted Cruz out of the Senate saying this about the omnibus spending bill.
You know, typically in the Senate, you have two votes. You can vote either yes or no. On this particular matter, my vote, I intend to be hell no. This is what's wrong with the Washington cartel. And Republican leadership has proven to be the most effective Democratic leaders we've ever seen. Mm-hmm. This omnibus does not honor the promises we made to the men and women who elected us. It funds Obamacare. It funds Planned Parenthood. It funds executive amnesty. It fails to stop Syrian refugees from coming to this country to protect our national security. It doesn't do that. It fails to do anything to stop the Iranian nuclear deal.
So fiscal conservatives are going to gravitate to Ted Cruz, and Cruz is using this omnibus spending bill to launch himself away from Donald Trump and also Marco Rubio. Rubio also says he's against it. But funding Obamacare, the majority of American people want to see that happen. The majority of American people do not want to get rid of Planned Parenthood. So there's a lot of unpopular stuff that senator just said. Let's go to Sherrod Brown of Ohio. Senator, good to have you with us.
Yeah, good to be back. Thanks, buddy.
Your thoughts on, you bet, great to have you with us. Your thoughts on this spending bill, and is it going to get through the Senate?
It's going to get through the Senate. I mean, with Ted Cruz's words will help it get through the Senate, frankly, even in his own party. Most of my colleagues are going to vote for this. I wouldn't write these bills this way. I wouldn't wait to the last minute, but I also know that we've finally broken out of that sequestration where we're just squeezing and squeezing and squeezing. It's affected our economic growth. We've not seen the kind of public works, the kind of infrastructure, the kind of medical research, the kind of investment in community colleges and highways and bridges and water and sewer, all the things that help our economy grow, that made us the most incredible economy in the world from the 40s into the 80s. Then we've seen and so that's all good news. So it's clearly much better than it would have been without it. We're putting more money into Head Start, we're putting more money into transportation, education, healthcare. As you said, we're funding Planned Parenthood. We're doing a lot of those things that we should have done years ago.
Is Cruz using this bill as an opportunity, as you see it, to break away and make sure he gets the fiscal conservatives on his side?
Yeah, I mean, Cruz does. I don't want to really get all that much into this presidential race, but Cruz always does what helps him politically. I mean, so does Rubio. I mean, Rubio and Cruz are, in that sense, they're two peas in a pod. Their positions they take and the way they talk are always about politics. And Rubio started off maybe not that way, but his ambition has overwhelmed him. And there's a saying of Vermont senator many years ago, Republican from Vermont, back 50 years ago, was talking about all the presidential ambition in the U.S. Senate. He said the only cure for the presidential virus in the U.S. Senate is embalming fluid. And these two guys got the ambition a lot sooner, and the compromise has already started coming, and the politicization of everything for these two guys. And so I'm not surprised Cruz would talk this way. Anything to raise money, anything to help his presidential race.
Senator, what's going to happen with Syrian refugees? Is that going to go through? Will there be changes that will satisfy those who are concerned about it? How do you see it?
Well, the concern is real in the sense that we don't want anybody in this country that has been trained by ISIS or trained in Syria or Iran to commit terror. The But the best way to do that is to change the visa waiver program. So a French citizen who right now with a French passport, you can come easily into the U.S. With a U.S. passport, you can go easily into France. We need to change that. So, and we're going to, that if you've had if you as a French citizen with that passport had been to Syria or Iran or Iraq in the last 5 years, you don't get in. And that's the difference. What we do, what they want to do is just stop all refugees. The refugees are not the issue. The refugees that are coming here, the way that we screen refugees takes 1.5 to 2 years. They're not coming in. The terrorists aren't coming in this way. They're trying to come other ways, and that's how we stop them that way. One more point. Since September 11th, 750,000 refugees have come into this country. Only 3 out of 750,000, 3 have been even arrested. Not one has been convicted of any terrorist activity. So we have done that, by and large, right. That screening process that takes 18 months to 2 years, it's the visa waiver program we need to fix, and we need to make sure that the authorities, the customs people, are putting more effort into going online and seeing if these people are wanting to come in are using social media. That's where we've fallen short as a nation, and that's what we need to fix.
Do you think that we need to go into social media like we have not been doing? There was a report out there that the Obama administration didn't want to do it because they thought it would look bad. It was also election year politics at the time, and they were afraid of that coming out. At least that was the report by Brian Ross on ABC. I mean, how far do we go, in your opinion?
Well, I voted against the Patriot Act 20 years ago or 15 years ago, so you can see where I start on this. But I do think people that are coming into this country, that depending on where they're coming from, we do look at social media, but we don't keep them out unless we have real evidence to show that they can be a problem. So it's not a question of too much intervention in people's lives. It's a question of protecting our country, and we can do that without all this anti-Muslim rhetoric and without beating up on refugees that just they want to get away from terrorism every bit as much or more than we do.
Senator, where do you stand on this drumbeat that's going on over on the conservative debates about troops on the ground to fight ISIS? Does the president have a strategy? And do you agree with the way he is handling all of this? Because if you listen to the opposition, they can't wait to get boots on the ground. That's the only way we're going to defeat ISIS. Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, these opposition that wants boots on the ground, first of all, they're not making any effort in Congress to actually do something about authorization with the president and all that. So
authorization of force of military use of military force.
Yeah, they're it's rhetoric. It's playing to the crowd, and everybody on that stage, almost everybody, was playing to fear, as they always do ever since Joe McCarthy, and race and all the things that they play to over and over and over again. It was one after the other, trying to many stretching the truth or worse, and playing to fear. But I think you start with this, Ed, that the people in this town in Washington that are most strongly advocating boots on the ground are the same people that got us into the war in Iraq. And I think there's no question that the instability in the Middle East, much of it flows from the war in Iraq, much of the creation of ISIS, much of all of this. And you start with that with this crowd, and then you start figuring this out. But the president, we don't want a long war in the Middle East. That number one, the American people don't want it. Number two, it won't work. And so it means working with local communities and local countries there. It means, in part, putting real effort into drying up the money for ISIS and using the powers of the International Banking Committee to sanction anybody doing business that's sending money directly or indirectly to ISIS. That's something we do very, very well. Yet at the same time, the Banking Committee chairman won't even confirm the Assistant Treasury Secretary for terrorism and financial crimes, a guy that's been out there for 8 months, a former Bush guy who Obama appointed, and wants to get him in the Middle East, doing everything he can to close any pipelines to squeeze financing of terrorism. And that's a big part of what we can do that Obama's doing, and he's trying, but this guy's not empowered as much as he would if the Senate would confirm him instead of just talking.
So on one hand, there's a lot of criticism of the president. On the other hand, they're not going to help him do anything when it comes to
what's the story? Yeah, how many interviews have we had with that subject in the last 7 years? It's always criticism of Obama, but not giving it. It's that on the economy. I mean, they did nothing to help us grow this economy. Nothing, in fact, did damage to helping us grow. And then they scream at the president, look how bad economic growth is. Well, no kidding.
Yeah. I want to ask you about the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. This was supposed to be a slam dunk. It's not. A lot of good Democrats and some strange bedfellows politically, some hard right-wingers have said no to the TPP. It doesn't look like it's going to get addressed before the election. And we, of course, have just gone through a ruling from the World Trade Organization that we were facing some sanctions if we didn't take some measures. One of the measures was to get rid of country origin labeling. Is this a perfect example that what has happened with the vote in Congress on coal to avoid these sanctions from the WTO is what we would be facing if the Trans-Pacific Partnership was ratified and put in place? Is this a tip of the iceberg?
That's exactly right. And obviously your sophistication on trade issues shows in that question that's exactly what it does. It empowers companies. It empowers tobacco companies in some cases, although we fixed some of that in TPP. It empowers all kinds of companies to sue foreign governments and undermine consumer protections and undermine food safety and undermine a whole host of kinds of laws and protections. Why shouldn't we be allowed to put country of origin labeling on our products? And Mary, we're not saying we're keeping them out. We're just saying if you want to know if you want to buy certain products, you want to know where they're from. One of the best examples, and it makes me laugh, is I got involved when I started hearing from constituents that their pets, that their dogs were getting sick from treats they were eating that were made in China. And, we brought attention to it, and what happened was the pet food companies, many of them started producing only in America as a result, not just what I was doing, but as a result of many others. So why, it changes things, and it makes the food supply safer. Why shouldn't we be allowed to do that? That's what's going to happen with TPP kinds of rules. I feel good that, we certainly stopped it before November. I think the woman who will be president-elect on November 5th or whatever date is also opposed to it. So I think we have a pretty good shot at stopping TPP. The president's unhappy about it, but Mitch McConnell said he's going to put it aside. McConnell's upset about some tobacco language which makes me kind of smile, frankly. One other point, Trent Lott, many years ago, the former Mississippi segregationist Republican senator, said that you can't pass a trade agreement in an even-numbered year. And what he's saying is the public doesn't like them. And you can look at Trump talking about China. It's not just Democrats that don't like these trade agreements. And so they're on the wrong side on this one, the people pushing it. And McConnell still wants it. Hatch still wants it. But I think we have a reasonably good shot to kill it. I'm not predicting that yet, but things look good on it.
This was not the conversation 6 months ago. So
exactly right.
There's no doubt that the protecting American jobs and workers and also food protection is a big issue. Senator,
shows like this, Ed, really play into that, because when you were doing MSNBC all that time, what you're doing now, what you've done on radio, really does help build the movement against these trade agreements, because the public doesn't like them, and the elite in Washington and corporate America and Harvard Business School love these agreements, but they are wrong, and you and I are right, and we keep pushing and keep talking about it.
Well, Senator, when anybody starts talking to me about that, they ask me, well, what's this TPP thing? The first thing I say to them, okay, I'll tell you, but I can't tell you in 30 seconds. Okay, right. So if I have your attention, you give me 5 minutes, I can tell you exactly what's coming down. And at the end of that 5 minutes, they say, well, that's not good. What are we doing? I mean, when you appeal to the common sense of the American people, they think the deal sucks.
But I agree with that. But I do have a less than 30-second answer. That's if somebody says, well, all these economists are for this bill. And you can say, yeah, but the economists, we never outsource economist jobs. So you could also argue that way. But you're right. You need to talk some substance to win on this.
You have a great holiday, Senator Sherrod Brown.
You too. All right. Thanks, buddy. See you.
All the best. You bet. This is Ed Schultz News and Commentary, brought to you by Communication Workers of America, Alliance for American Manufacturing, BioGreen Clean of the Ice Save team. Have a good one.